Another way to draw attention to items on your worksheet or even make clarification of items in your worksheet is to add different objects or shapes inside of your worksheet. For example, if I want to point out something over here about the total, you might insert a shape. For example, insert tab, and then on the illustrations section of that ribbon, it's right up here in that top right corner, and it'll say shapes. And if you hit the down arrow, got lots of sections: recently used, lines, even free form and scribble, lots of different rectangle styles, basic shapes, including, that's a text box right there, block arrows. And by the way, whenever you use any of these, you can rotate them, stretch them, do all kinds of items, modifications to them to make it look the way you want. Flow charting, stars and banners, and then even call outs are in here. So let's start with something, let's do a basic arrow here. Now when you choose a shape, you can put your mouse over the worksheet and then just left click and hold your mouse down, and usually go down kind of a down and diagonal direction. Now you can grab it, just grab it on the lines away from any of these boxes or this circular item here. So if you get that four-headed arrow, that's a good indicator that you have this item. So I can drag here. There we go. Now this right here, this yellow one, defines the head of the arrow, how big that is. There we go. And then this one defines how wide it is. There we go. Like that. So you've got those choices, and then everything else is to stretch or reduced, in one direction or another. Okay. Now in here you can actually type, and that's why when you look up here you see word art styles and you have text ready to go. I'm going to make it orange, and since it's already selected I can just start typing, so I can put in totals. There we go. Now at this point you don't have a lot of choice of exactly where this goes, but you can hit enter to bring it down if you need to. You can space it over. If that's just not working, you can always just add a text box over this and then just lay it right into it, and even hook those together if you want to, so they stay together. So that's one way. Now that works fine as long as that arrow is looking like this. As we look this to rotate this little circular icon up here, if you put your mouse over, you get the circle arrow. If you left click and drag, it messes all that up because it's tied to this area, not necessarily the object. So that's another reason to do things like a text box versus trying to type inside and hope it stays there. Okay, so what would that look like? Well, let's get rid of that. There's the image, and if we go to insert shapes, it's right here. It's also down here under basic shapes, and you'll also find it over here in the text area. So any of those will work, and all you do is you get a typical cursor there, and we'll call it totals. There we go. And again, it rotates as well, and then you just grab it and put it where you want. There you go. And again, this is all things that you can do with it. You can change the color of it and make it red, or probably orange in this case. There we go. And you can bold it and italicize it. And if you want to put them together, you're basically clicking on one, holding down Control, your CTRL button, and then clicking on the other component. And then what you're trying to do is you're trying to merge those two things together, and they call it grouping. So if you hit the down arrow, you're going to see group, regroup, or ungroup. Well, we've only got two items selected, so we're going to hit group. There we go. Now what's nice about that is it now moves with you even if you rotate it. There we go. So it all stays together. There we go. Okay, so that's a little bit extra on the working with shapes, but it's a good thing to know, especially if you're trying to put information inside of it. Okay. Now, lots of other tools are available in shapes. You've got these big arrows, that do this kind of thing. There we go. And you can select that. You can rotate it. Now, one thing we didn't do on the last one is we have shape styles, so you can change, the colors here of that shape. There we go. You got shape fill, so you can change that. You can throw a picture in there. You can change gradients in there. Even give it texture. There we go. Shape outline. Usually there's none, but you can use it to emphasize, the look of that. And then shape effects, with shadows, rotations. That's when you're not free-forming doing it. That might be an easy way to figure it out quicker. But these are good things to know so that you're able to quickly highlight things. Shadows are good to kind of bring things out, offset them from the worksheet. So now you've got a shadow here and so forth. Okay. Other things that we typically see is like when you're doing a chart or something like that, you may want to be pointing out certain pieces of it. So you might do like an oval and then left click and drag. Here we go. Again, we're dealing with the shape outline. We'll make it red and let's make it thicker. So that's where weight comes in. And you can make that very large there. And shape fill, right now it's all white. I can choose no fill so that it's specifically, showing that circle. And then, we're just going to get creative here. You can drop this down and we can do a call out like that. And then you can just type high point of project. Something like that. Now that has a definite white background. Again, that's a shape fill. You can turn that off if you want to, or you can do all kinds of things with gradients with it. Lots of different options for you there. Okay, so inserting your shapes are right here. You can rotate them, you can resize them, you can put text in most anything. And if you can't, then you can put it beside it or near it. And these things are more like permanent, meaning it's something that you want to leave on there, or maybe you're just doing it for a presentation. And I'm bringing that up because of comments. When you learn to use comments, those stay in there and they show up whenever you put your mouse over them. These are really intended to be seen right away. So I'm making a point here, and whether it's just for a presentation or not, I want that visible as soon as you come into it. So one other way that we'll see this is, you may have a field here. Sometimes you'll put comments that come up when you go over the field, but you could just as well, put in a text box and, have it ready. Please input dates every time. So could I do that as a comment? Probably, but here I want them to see it as soon as they come in to this. So I can make it very strong or very friendly, but make sure that they see that. So that's sitting there on the worksheet so that as they come into it, they'll see it right away. And it's another way to use your shapes to draw attention.